Right now, the second a task ends, your hand is already reaching for your phone. Not because you need it, because an empty moment feels unbearable, and you've been trained to fill it instantly with anything at all. But your ancestors didn't have that option, and they had far more empty moments than you do. So what did they actually do with all that unfilled time? Let's go back, not to your last boring afternoon. Back 100,000 years, to a world with no screens, no books, no scheduled entertainment of any kind. And, according to the archaeological and anthropological record, hours of unstructured time every single day. Here's the part that surprises most people. Boredom, as a constant background hum of low-grade discomfort, may not have existed the way it does now. Not because ancient life was more exciting, because the human brain evolved specific, built-in tools for occupying idle time. Tools so old and so deeply wired that you still use every single one of them today, usually without noticing. The first tool was storytelling, and it wasn't entertainment in the modern disposable sense. Anthropologist Wiessner spent years recording nighttime conversations among the Juhonasi people of the Kalahari and found something striking. During the day, conversation was almost entirely practical, where the food was, what the tracks looked like, who did what to whom. But at night, around the fire, conversation shifted almost completely to stories, myths, and social history. Wiessner's research suggests this wasn't idle chatter. It was how a small, illiterate society transmitted its entire cultural memory. Every value, every warning, every piece of accumulated wisdom the group had, one storytelling session at a time. Boredom, in other words, had a job. It pushed people toward the fire, and the fire pushed people toward stories. And stories are how a species with no written language managed to remember anything at all for more than a single lifetime. The second tool was play, and it started far earlier than you'd expect. Primatologists have observed complex, elaborate play behavior in young chimpanzees and bonobos, our closest living relatives, long before any hint of human culture existed. This tells researchers something important. Play isn't a human invention for filling time. It's a piece of ancient primate hardware, refined over millions of years, because play is how young mammals rehearse the skills, hunting, negotiating, testing boundaries, that keep them alive as adults. An idle moment, to a young primate brain, wasn't wasted time, it was training, disguised as fun. The third tool was craft. Give a human idle hands, and something remarkable happens. They start shaping things. Archaeologists have recovered ochre fragments engraved with deliberate geometric patterns dating back roughly 100,000 years at sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa, patterns with no obvious survival function at all. No one needed a cross-hatched pattern scratched into a rock to find food or avoid a predator. Researchers studying these artifacts generally interpret them as some of the earliest evidence of symbolic thought. Decoration for its own sake, pattern for the simple, apparently ancient pleasure of making one. Boredom didn't just get tolerated, it got redirected into the very beginnings of art. The fourth tool, and maybe the most overlooked, was social grooming. And not just for hygiene. Primatologist Dunbar has argued that grooming among primates serves a social function far bigger than removing parasites. It builds and maintains bonds, releases endorphins, and signals trust between individuals in a group. Dunbar's research suggests that as human groups grew too large for everyone to physically groom everyone else, language itself may have evolved partly as a kind of vocal grooming, a faster way to maintain the same social bonds across more relationships than fingers on skin could ever manage. An idle afternoon spent simply talking wasn't wasted. It was maintenance on the relationships your survival depended on. Notice what's missing from all four of these ancient boredom killers. Passive consumption. Nobody was scrolling. Nobody was watching something happen to somebody else. Every single tool your ancestors used to fill empty time was active, social, and generative. A story told out loud, a game played with another body, a pattern carved by your own hand, a conversation that built a real bond with a real person sitting 3 feet away. Modern boredom feels worse, and researchers who study attention and reward systems have a working theory why. Passive content, an endless feed, a video that plays the next one automatically, delivers small, frequent hits of stimulation without requiring the effort that ancient boredom killers demanded. But that same effortlessness may leave something unsatisfied. Your ancient reward circuitry didn't just evolve to want stimulation. It evolved to want stimulation as the byproduct of something. Making, connecting, competing, remembering. Take away the something, and the stimulation alone doesn't seem to fully deliver what it once did. This is why a walk with a friend often resets you in a way that an hour of scrolling never quite manages to. Why building something with your hands can feel more satisfying than watching 100 videos of other people building things. Why a real conversation, even a short one, tends to leave you fuller than a feed full of thousands of strangers' updates. You're not imagining the difference. You're reaching for tools 100,000 years older than the ones currently living in your pocket. Tools your nervous system still recognizes as the real thing. Boredom was never actually empty 100,000 years ago. It was an invitation toward the fire, toward each other, toward the very first mark ever scratched into a rock for no reason except that it was satisfying to make. Your hand is already reaching for your phone. But somewhere underneath that impulse is a much older instinct, still quietly asking for the same four things it always has: a story, a game, something made by your own hands, someone to actually talk to.